Welcome back to Stardom Cinema, where we're talking about receivers. Don't be starting your Niners or your Jets this week. Not that you probably would. They haven't really, the receivers for those teams haven't really showed out much at all this year. But, yeah. What's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo. Just in case you did not know, so go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you're enjoying the content. And go ahead and become a bro and subscribe. I do a lot of fantasy football stuff on the channel. I do a lot of NFL draft stuff on the channel. So if that's your kink, then I don't know. Check me out, creep. But let's go ahead. Let's get started with the Thursday night game. We got the Eagles. We got the Packers. We got starts. We got sits. As for starts, I have Nelson Agholor as a start. He is the offense. He looked really good this last week. Granted, it was against Detroit, but this team, it's a tough matchup. It's a tough matchup. The Packers are third when it comes to allowing points to opposing receivers, but especially and we know Deshaun Jackson's going to be out, so he's a sit, and we don't know about Alshon Jeffrey yet. So if Nelson Agholor is their only receiver, essentially, then I say go ahead and start him, because they're going to have to pass the ball to stay in this game. And that's why I have Alshon Jeffrey. He's probably still going to be a little banged up. Again, since he got hurt, it's 2 games within a 10-day span. I think, honestly, they're probably going to hold him out. But keep up with his status. If you feel like starting him, if he is healthy, then go for it. I'm not comfortable with that. But Davante Adams and MVS for Green Bay, they're both starts, because, man, MVS has been used very well in this offense, and he's really ate into a lot of Davante Adams' share. Like, both have 21 targets on the year. Davante Adams has 15 receptions, and MVS has 13. So it's really tough who to call. I know a lot of y'all probably spent first round picks on Davante Adams, expecting him to come out and be the reciprocator of all those receptions, but that's just not the case here for this Green Bay offense. So I have them as starts because they're facing the 29th worst offense when it comes to points against opposing receivers. Geronimo, he's unreliable. He's a sit. So, yeah. Chargers versus the Dolphins, and what? I have a Dolphin as a start this week. That's wild. And depending on how he does this week, it might be the last time I have a Dolphin as a start of the week. Preston Williams, he saw 12 targets last week. If he's going to be the starter there from now on in Miami, this looks like that's his go-to guy. And if they're going to score at all this year, it's probably going to come from Preston Williams. Albert Wilson is still, check the injury report. I don't know if he will be healthy, but he's more of a Fitzpatrick guy than a Rosen guy. Devontae Parker had tons of drops last week. Throw him on the bench. And Jakeem Grant's hardly used in the offense. As for the Chargers, should be easy pick'ems, right? Well, Keenan Allen really was the only guy catching balls last week for Phillip Rivers. Mike Williams, he had 7 targets, but he only turned into 3 catches. And I know this is a very good matchup for Mike Williams, so if you want to start him, go ahead. But I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not high on Mike Williams, and especially if Travis Benjamin is healthy this week, I would actually start Benjamin over Williams. Tight ends versus the Falcons. Julio Jones, guess what? He's a start. Don't have to think twice about it. He is a start. Tough matchup. Tennessee does have their 7th best when it comes to allowing points to receivers, but he is Matt Ryan's favorite target of all time. I have, however, Calvin Ridley and Mohamed Sanu as sits this week. It's a tough matchup, and really, I mean, this is Calvin Ridley. This is essentially what Calvin Ridley is. If he's this was him last year. He either put out a banger of a game, or he got you a point or two. Like, he was a roller coaster all year, just these dips and heights, dips and peaks. And it's a tough matchup, and I don't trust him. And if Calvin Ridley is a non-factor, then Mohamed Sanu is going to see a lot of that underneath. He is their slot. So, I don't know. I'm not comfortable with either receiver. As for the Titans, I know it's a decent matchup. Semi-decent. The Falcons, they're 10th best, so it's not a great matchup. But who's getting the ball in Tennessee? Like, they have so many receivers that it's a mixed bag. Like, Adam Humphries came out of nowhere last week and had a pretty good game. Week 1, it was A.J. Brown. Like, there's no receiver you can really trust. Corey Davis, is it Sharp? Like, who do you trust in this offense at receiver? The answer is no one. Patriots versus the Bills, and what ought to be a very, very fun matchup. But at receiver, the only guy on Buffalo I'm comfortable with is Cole Beasley, especially if you are in a PPR league. This guy's seen 23 targets. He's turned that into 17 catches. He won't get you in the end zone. That's not what he does. He is a possession receiver, and Josh Allen loves going to Beasley. And where they're facing the best team when it comes to allowing points to receivers. So I got John Brown as a sit. I got Zay Jones, who's kind of irrelevant anyway, as a sit. As for the Patriots, though, no AB. Philip Dorsett, welcome, my man. Welcome. I think he's going to be a big in this game. Buffalo, they are 8th when it comes to allowing points to opposing receivers. But I think the person that's going to hurt the most is Josh Gordon. I think Tre'Davious White will be matched up on Gordon, which will allow Philip Dorsett just to have a baller of a game. In the two games that AB, or in the 2 games where AB didn't play, he had 10 receptions, and that was on 11 targets, 10 receptions for 148 yards and 3 touchdowns. This guy could be a sneaky, really good play this week. And then Julian Edelman, he had 10 targets last week. Just be sure he's good to go. I think he was suffering from like a chest injury that caused him to leave that Jets game early. So just keep an eye on that, but he should be a start. He is Brady's go-to target. Chiefs versus the Lions, and I have almost everybody as a start in this game. I mean, let's be honest. If you're a receiver for the Chiefs, if you are a recipient of a pass from Patrick Mahomes, you are a start, my friend. You are a start. Detroit, they're 22nd anyway against opposing receivers. As for, I have Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones both as starts. The Chiefs, they're 15th when it comes to giving up points to opposing receivers. But you may be like, well, Golladay had such a bad game last week. It wasn't so much a bad game. He saw 8 targets. Jones, he saw 9. He just capitalized on his. That's kind of Jones's MO. Like last year, he saw the same amount of targets he saw the year before, where he had a banger of a year. It's just he didn't really come down with most of those, so it was kind of a wash year for him. That's kind of what that game was last week. So Marvin Jones, again, he'll see the opportunity, and I like that. In a game that's probably going to be a shootout, they're going to have to pass a lot to win, to even stay in this game. Danny Amendola, he doesn't see enough snaps to be of any relevance in this matchup. Raiders versus the Colts, and I only got the two number ones as starts this week for this game. T.Y. Hilton, he is the number 1 target in that passing offense. He is the go-to for Brissett. Same with Tyrell Williams. Same verse, same as the first, or second verse, same as the verse, whatever the heck that saying is. But he is Derek Carr's go-to. I know J.J. Nelson had a pretty good game, but the Colts are 6th when it comes to allowing points to receivers. So I think it might be a tough outing for him. Hunter Renfrow, he's just going to be seeing stuff underneath, so he's not going to get you much. And for the Colts, you tell me what receiver is going to produce that's not named T.Y. Hilton. It wasn't Paris Campbell last week. It wasn't Kane. It wasn't Chester Rogers. It was Zach. Was it Pascal? I mean, I don't know. If you like playing Russian roulette, then go ahead and have your receiver of choice from the Colts, because that's what it is, man. I'm not a gambling man. Texas Hold'em, that's about it. But Roulette? We talking a little slot machine? Heck nah, get that crap away from me. I play the odds, the good odds. And odds are I'm sitting, I probably actually don't even own any of those other Colt receivers. So yeah, there's my rant. Redskins versus the Giants. Only sit at receiver I have in this game is Trey Quinn. Kind of like what I said with Hunter Renfrow. He's the slot. He only really sees passes underneath. It doesn't get a lot of points for him, so I have him as a sit. If you have him, Sterling Shepard though, as long as Golden Tate is out, which I think this is last week of his suspension, this will probably be his last week where he's fully utilized in the slot, and I like it. He looked really good, and I mean the Redskins, they are 32nd when it comes to points allowed to receivers. So yeah, I like Shepard in this matchup. Darius Slayton, he came out and he had a pretty good game too this past week. I mean, he does play that. If you think about it, it makes sense that Jones kind of keyed on Slayton because this is the guy who he practices with on the second team. So I expect him as a sneaky play. If you're kind of like, oh man, I don't know who to start a receiver, go ahead, pick him up and might have a pretty solid performer. Terry McLaurin, man, 3 touchdowns through 3 games. He's seeing the work, man. He is seeing the work. He had 8 targets last week, turned into 6 receptions, and that was against a tough Bear defense. Paul Richardson too, in a game which will be a shootout because the Redskins can't run the football. He had 9 targets for 8 receptions, so he should be utilized in this game as well. Since the Giants, they are 31st against opposing receivers. Browns versus Ravens. Odell Beckham, yes, he is a start. Tough matchup, but it's Odell Beckham. It's OBJ. You starting him. Jarvis Landry saw 9 targets last week. I think they're going to be in a game where they're going to have to pass, man. That's going to be the game script. I know that, Baltimore has been pretty vulnerable through the air. They're 23rd against opposing receivers, so there is that. Marquise Brown, though, the man is seeing a ton of opportunity. He saw 9 targets this past week, so it was only for 2 receptions because Lamar Jackson was inaccurate as insert something funny here, but he was just super inaccurate. So I like the opportunity. I like that he can be a big play threat. I know that Cleveland, since their first week, that defense has really played well, but I think he would be a good play this week. Willie Snead, he's Willie Snead. He's not going to do much for you. Drop him. Panthers versus the Texans. Panthers, they're going to have to pass to win this game. Duh. But I think this game could be a shootout. So I like DJ Moore. I like Curtis Samuel in this game. Houston, they're 26th against opposing receivers, so you got a plus matchup there. DeAndre Hopkins, you're starting him regardless. I know he's had a few off weeks, but he's a start regardless. Now, Will Fuller and Kenny Stills is kind of interesting. They're both, really, it's kind of scary. Who will perform? I mean, just this past week, Fuller had 6 targets. Kenny Stills had 7. It's, I don't know. I'd be uncomfortable starting either of the two, but there is upside there that both they are seeing opportunity. So if you do want to start either of these in a flex position, I say go ahead. You got my seal of approval. Good for you. Buccaneers versus the Rams. Godwin and Evans finally. I knew he was going to come out and ball last week. But they got a tough matchup this week. I mean, the Rams, they're really good. They're second best when it comes to allowing points to receivers. But the Bucs are going to have to pass to stay in this game. They're going to have to score. And it's going to be either Godwin or Evans. As far as the Rams, Cooper Kupp is easily Goff's favorite target. He's also their red zone threat, so he looks like a bona fide stud right now. Brandon Cooks, he saw 12 targets last week. And I got Robert Woods as the sit because he looks like the odd man out. He's seeing targets, but not much is coming from it. So, and you know what? That Tampa Bay secondary hasn't been all bad. They're 11th against opposing receivers. So, for me, I think Robert Woods is the odd man out. Seahawks versus the Cardinals. Woo, man. Larry Fitz, Christian Kirk, they've been seeing a lot of volume. I say they're both starts in this game, which can get out of hand early. They're going to have to pass to stay in it. So I'm comfortable with both those guys. Tyler Lockett saw 14 targets this past week. Thank you. Finally, I'm just glad Lockett's seeing some good stuff. And you know what? This Cardinals secondary, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It's bad. So I expect Tyler Lockett to look really good. And despite this Cardinals secondary looking bad, I have DK Metcalf as a sit because if I'm thinking this is how the game script's going to go, it's going to be Lockett, it's going to be Disley. Metcalf, he saw 6 targets last week. He turned it into 2 receptions. He is their deep threat, granted. And I'm just not comfortable. I'm not comfortable that this guy, essentially all his fantasy production could come on one play. So he's a sit for me. Vikings versus the Bears. Keep an eye on Taylor Gabriel's status. He had a banger of a game, but he left the game with a concussion, so hopefully he's able to play. Because, oh man, they're gonna have to. I think they're gonna have to score to stay in this game. Because I mean, the Bears' defense? It's so good. It's so good. But they could only hold off an offense for so long. So I think their production is going to be through the air because that Viking defense is really good against the run. They're only 23rd against opposing receivers. So if Gabriel's healthy, I think he's good to go. Allen Robinson, as long as Mitch Trubisky could throw a pass that's on point, that's a thing, man. Robinson's been given a lot of opportunity. It's just Mitch Trubisky has been very inaccurate. It sucks. It sucks a lot. As far as Minnesota, Adam Thielen, man, he is the only guy really of relevance for Minnesota, and it sucks. It's kind of depressing because I got Stefon Diggs as a sit because look at his production through 3 games. He has 12 targets, 6 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown. He's facing Chicago, who granted they're 19th against opposing receivers, but they run the football a lot. So I hate to say it, I'm sorry, man. Diggs is a sit for me. I'm not comfortable. That's why I didn't draft him. He was kind of this way last year, but they passed the ball a lot more, so he was a lot more productive. But yeah, Thielen is easily the go-to guy there. Anthony Miller has been irrelevant. It's unfortunate. I had a lot of Anthony Miller hype going into the year. He was utilized a lot, and he has been utilized very little this year. So he is a sit. Jaguars versus the Broncos. Both teams are actually fairly decent against opposing receivers. But my starts, I got Emmanuel Sanders. I know he put up kind of a dud, but that's because Green Bay literally game planned around him. Their whole sole focus was to shut him down, and you know what? That was why Denver was kind of able to run the ball very efficiently. But I think he will see. I think it'll be much better. I know he's probably going to be matched up against probably Jalen Ramsey, but I could see Ramsey being on Sutton as well. But if Denver's going to stay in this game, they're going to have to pass, and Flacco loves Sanders. DJ Shark, he scored in every game this year. He is the favorite target of Gardner Minshew. This guy is the home run threat. So I like him in this matchup against Denver. Cortland Sutton, D.D. Westbrook, Chris Conley, they're all sits. Westbrook, man, I'm holding out hope that Foles comes back. It's the only reason Westbrook is still on my roster. Saints versus the Cowboys. The Saints, they're 30th when it comes to giving up points to receivers. And I think it is going to be Amari Cooper and it's going to be Devin Smith that actually sees those points. Randall Cobb, I have him as a sit because I think he's just going to be a little underneath. But if you want to start him, I'd say go ahead. Only as a flex, though. Don't expect him to be a wide receiver 1 or 2. As for the Saints, man, you can't trust. It's Teddy Bridgewater right now, currently at quarterback. You can't trust production from anyone who isn't Alvin Kamara or Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas, last week, his stat line read what? He had 7 targets, 5 receptions. So he's the only guy that I would feel comfortable starting a receiver for the Saints. Monday night game, Cincinnati versus the Steelers. Only receiver I really trust for the Bengals is Tyler Boyd. He is the go-to guy right now for Dalton since AJ Green is still out. I put Tate on this list because he had a really good game, but I don't expect that to happen again. John Ross, though, man, kind of came back down to earth. He is a big play threat. He can do it against his secondary. Will he, though? I'm not positive. He'll probably be matched up with Mika Fitzpatrick, who kind of like dips into the slot occasionally. But he will be the ball hawk back there. So I'm not comfortable with starting John Ross. As for the Steelers, Juju and Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson is the wide receiver too. Everyone thought James Washington would be Rudolph's go-to guy, but that proved not to be the case. Just looking at targets, Juju had 7, 3 receptions. Deontay Johnson had 6 targets, 3 receptions, and then James Washington had 4 targets, 2 receptions. Deontay Johnson, he has the big play capability, as we saw last week. He was one of the touchdowns from Mason Rudolph. He would be the only guy I trust in this matchup that's not named Juju. That's it for the video. Hopefully I was able to help out with receiver. I know it could be pretty tough, but hang in there. We got a long fantasy season. Hopefully you do well this week. You'll be in my prayers to the fantasy god. But until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.